Welcome back to our reading of Treasure Island. Today we are on Chapter 19, The Garrison and the Stockade. Now, in this chapter, in the three previous chapters, 16 through 18 that we read yesterday, those three chapters were read by Dr. Livesey, right? So this time we're going back to Jim Hawkins. So Jim Hawkins is taking over as narrative again. As soon as Ben Gunn saw the colors, he came to a halt, stopped by the arm, and sat down. "Now," said he, "there's your friend, sure enough, in a place like this where nobody puts it in but gentlemen of fortune. Silver would fly the Jolly Roger, the pirate flag. There's been blows, and I reckon your friends has had the best of it. Here they are ashore in the stockade made long ago by Flint. Ah, he was the man. Except for rum, his match was never seen. He were afraid of none but silver. Silver was the genteel." And so let's click on this. So a genteel is polite, refined, respectable. So the other pirates respected silver, okay? But Flint, it's saying he was the man, but except for rum, his match was never seen. So meaning that rum got the best of Captain Flint. So he drank too much alcohol. And again, Jolly Roger is the pirate flag. "Well," said I, "all the more reason that I should hurry on and join my friends." "Nay, mate," returned Ben, "you're a good boy, but you're only a boy, all told. Rum wouldn't bring Ben Gunn where you're going, not till I see you're born gentleman, and gets his word of honor. And when Ben Gunn is wanted, you know where to find him, Jim, between noon and 3. And him that comes is to have a white thing in his hand, and he's to come alone." So to have something white in your hand is a symbol of peace, that you come in peace and you don't want to be harmed. It means like to surrender, go in peace. "I believe I understand," I said. "You have something to propose, and you wish to see the squire or the doctor, and you're to be found where I found you. Now, may I go?" "You won't forget?" he inquired anxiously. "Well, then," still holding me, "I reckon you can go, Jim. And if you was to see silver, you wouldn't sell Ben Gunn?" "No," says you. Now at that moment a cannonball came tearing through the trees and pitched in the sand not 100 yards from us, and the two of us ran in different directions. For an hour balls kept crashing through the woods towards the end of the bombardment. I had begun to get courage again. After a detour to the east, I crept down among the shoreside trees. The sun had just set. The tide was far out, and great tracts of sand lay uncovered. The Hispaniola still lay where she had anchored, but there was the Jolly Roger, the black flag of piracy flying from her peak. Even as I looked, there came another red flash and another report that sent the echoes clattering, and one more shot whistled through the air. It was the last of the cannonade. I lay for some time watching the men demolishing something with axes on the beach near the stockade. It was the Jolly boat, I later discovered, near the mouth of the river. A great fire glowed, and between that point and the ship one of the gigs kept coming and going. The men were shouting at their oars, and there was a sound in their voices which suggested rum, meaning they sounded drunk. I saw some distance further down, and rising from among low bushes, a high isolated rock peculiarly white in color. It occurred to me that this might be the white rock beneath which Ben Gunn had hidden his boat. Then I went through the woods until I had regained the rear, or shoreward side, of the stockade, and was warmly welcomed by the faithful party. I had soon told my story and began to look about me. So he's made it to the stockade, to where his friends have been, Dr. Livesey and the captain and all of them. So now he's looking around the log house. The log house was made of trunks of pine, roof, walls, and floor. The latter stood in several places as much as 1.5 feet above the stand, meaning the floor. There was a porch at the door, and under this porch the little spring welled up into a great ship's iron kettle, with the bottom knocked out and into the sand. So that's where they're capturing their fresh water. Little had been left beside the framework of the house, but in one corner there was a stone slab for a hearth and an old rusty iron basket to contain the fire. The slopes of the knoll and the inside of the stockade had been cleared of timber to build the house, and we could see by stumps what a fine and lofty grove had been destroyed. Very close around the stockade, not too close for defense, the woods still flourished high and dense. The cold evening breeze whistled through every chink of the building. So chinking is that like mud-looking stuff between logs in a log cabin. It's called chinking. And sprinkled the floor with a continual rain of sand. So, the only thing that they're able to make mortar, that this mix that they put in between those, would be a combination using the sand. There was sand in our eyes and our teeth. There was sand in our suppers and dancing in the spring at the bottom of the kettle. Our chimney was a square hole in the roof. Only a little smoke found its way out, and the rest stayed in the house and kept us coughing. Now add to this that Gray had his face tied up in a bandage for the cut he had got in breaking away, and poor old Tom Redruth lay along the wall, stiff and stark, under the Union Jack. So the Union Jack is the British flag, and they've draped it over Tom Redruth's dead body. If we had been allowed to sit idle, we should have all fallen in the blues, meaning been depressed. But Captain Smollett called us up before him and divided us into watches. The doctor and Gray and I for one, the squire, Hunter, and Joyce upon the other. 2 were sent out for firewood, 2 more were set to dig a grave for Redruth. The doctor was named cook, I was made sentry at the door, so there's our spelling word, and the captain lent a hand wherever it was wanted. From time to time the doctor came to the door for air and to rest his eyes from the smoke. Whenever he did so, he had a word for me. "That man Smollett," he said once, "is a better man than I am, Jim," meaning he's got a lot of respect for Captain Smollett. He's not even on his ship, and yet he's still leading them by example. Another time he came and was silent for a while. Then he put his head on one side and looked at me. "Is Ben Gunn a man?" he said, or he asked. "I don't know, sir," said I. "I'm not very sure whether he's sane," meaning I think he's gone a little crazy. "Well, if there's any doubt about the matter, he is," returned the doctor. "A man who has been 3 years on a desert island can't expect to appear as sane as you or me. Was it cheese you said he had a fancy for?" "Yes, sir, cheese," I answered. "Well," says he, "in my snuff box I carry a piece of Parmesan cheese made in Italy and very nutritious. That's for Ben Gunn." So snuff box was kind of like a chewing tobacco, and a lot of people at sea would chew on it to help keep them from getting worms. Before supper, we buried old Tom in the sand and stood around him for a while bareheaded. A good deal of firewood had been got in, but not enough for the captain. When we had eaten our pork and had a stiff glass of brandy, so alcohol, the 3 chiefs got together in a corner to discuss our prospects. They were at their wits' end what to do, the stores being so low that we must be starved into surrender long before help came. Our best hope, it was decided, was to kill off the buccaneers until they either hauled down their flag or ran away with the Hispaniola. From 19, they were already reduced to 15. So 4 people have already died. 2 others were wounded, and one, the man shot beside the gun, severely wounded, if not dead. Every time we had a crack at them, we were to take it. Besides that, we had 2 able allies, rum and climate, meaning that these 2 things were in their favor. They were drinking a lot of rum, and they were in the really yucky part of the island that would make you sick. Now, as for the first, the rum, though we were half a mile away, we could hear them roaring late into the night, meaning they're drinking way too much. And as for the second, the climate, the doctor was sure that camped where they were in the marsh, half of them would be sick within a week. So, he added, if we are not all shot down first, they'll be glad to leave. First ship ever I lost, said Captain Smollett. Everyone else had already breakfasted and increased the pile of firewood by about half as much again, when I was awakened by a bustle and the sound of voices. Flag of truce, I heard someone say, and then Silver himself. And at that I jumped up, and rubbing my eyes, I ran to an opening in the wall. And that leads us to our next chapter, Silver's Embassy.